Okay, good morning, freshmen. Happy Monday. Today is just going to be a really brief little lesson on sound. That's what we are going to talk about this week is the element of sound when it comes to poetry and the role that things like rhythm and rhyme scheme and other elements of sound have to play when it comes to creating poetry and understanding poetry. So sound is just an aspect that really helps differentiate poetry from prose. Prose, in case you are not familiar, is the term referred to basically anything that isn't poetry. So prose would be regular writing, writing that doesn't have a specific rhythm or a specific pattern or a rhyme scheme that you need to follow. It's just something that's very more straightforward, written in more traditional format. Anything that you've written so far this year for me has been prose. It's basically any kind of writing that's not poetry. And then poetry is distinguishable from prose because of several important factors. One of those that we talked about last week is the style choices that the poet makes. This week, it's sound. So sound is anything from the rhyme scheme to the rhythm to maybe the use of alliteration or dissonance or different elements like that we will talk about this week that basically create specific kind of style, a specific kind of feeling and mood and tone that is created throughout the poem that really helps distinguish it as a poem rather than a piece of prose. So one really clear way to kind of talk about sound is music. So obviously lyrics are a form of poetry. They are written with specific stanzas and specific bridges and choruses to be repeated and stuff like that. They're written in a way that sounds musical, a way that flows best with the beat of the song, in a way that kind of creates a specific rhyme scheme or a specific rhythm or a specific beat that helps create a mood or a feeling in the listener. So maybe if you work out, you listen to rap music, and that's a lot more upbeat, has really consistent rhyme scheme, really hard end rhymes, stuff like that. Maybe if you are like me, when you are feeling emotional, you like to listen to really sad songs, you like to listen to ballads and stuff like that, people like Adele, where the music is really, it's kind of drawn out a little bit more, it's not as quick beats, it's slower, it's kind of rises and falls with a little bit more intention. And it creates kind of a more emotional mood. It's not something you'd want to run to. It's not a beat that you can keep a pace with, but it's something that kind of expresses an emotion. So that kind of sound element that plays a part there is really specific to poetry, and it is something that really sets poetry apart from prose. So when you have lines that rhyme at the end, or lines that every other one rhymes, or you have specific beats that it follows, like da-dun, 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 stuff like that. That's all part of sound, and that's really specific to poetry. And we will get into all the elements of that this week. Tomorrow we'll talk about rhyme. Wednesday we will talk a little bit about rhythm, and then Thursday we'll talk about some of the other elements of sound that exist out there. Friday this week you do not have school. We have to make up our PIR day. That was originally supposed to be March 30th. Remember, you weren't supposed to have school March 30th, and we did have school March 30th. And so we have to make up that PIR day as teachers. We have to get in a work day where we complete all the stuff on our end that we still have to do for some of our teacher work. So I'm working this Friday, you're not. April 24th, you have the day off. So this will be a 4-day week just talking about sound. And then next week we will do our last week of instruction on poetry, which will talk about form. So basically I know that's a really brief introduction. I just wanted to spend a day talking about what sound is, what makes it specific. There's many different elements of sound. The most two prominent ones are rhythm and rhyme scheme. There's other elements as well, but basically it's something that creates a beat, creates a mood, creates a rhythm within the poem that makes it have a specific tone, that makes kind of the meaning really clear, that brings out some emotion from the reader. Maybe it goes along to music. Whatever it is, it sets it aside from prose. So for example, almost any poem you read is something that you could set to music. You're not going to set the book To Kill a Mockingbird to music, right? So that's kind of just what makes poetry so specific, is the sound element that it has, the way that it rhymes, the way that it has a rhythm and a beat, the way that there's a specific kind of pattern that flows throughout the entire thing that the author kind of sticks to. That's what sound is. It's just kind of the part of poetry that makes it flow, that makes it follow a certain pattern, that makes us usually like it. Sound is usually the part of poetry that resonates the most with people. That's something that you can see, especially when it comes to music and lyrics. It's the part that we relate to. It's the part that draws out our emotions. It's the part that makes it more upbeat or more slowed down, more serious, more happy, different stuff like that that help reinforce the tone and the attitude and the meaning and stuff like that that's present. So I know that's kind of a vague overview. I just wanted to spend a couple minutes giving an introduction about it so that tomorrow we're able to dive right into rhyme. Sound is just something that distinguishes poetry from prose, reinforces the meaning, It creates emphasis. This draws your attention to specific elements that can reinforce the tone or the theme. It just is something that kind of grabs your attention as the reader. And it'll be very clear once I talk more about each specific element what exactly it is. So yeah, that's a little introduction on sound, and some quick announcements for you. Please make sure that you are staying up to date on your work. One final announcement, May 1st is when I want to be all the way caught up on grades. So by that point, anything that is not turned in is going to go into the gradebook as a 0 if it hasn't already. And so that's going to affect your grade pretty drastically. So please make sure that you get everything in ASAP, stay on top of stuff. Once again, your only assignment for this week is the note sheet, and then the assignment that I put in classwork, that is over Emily Dickinson's poem about death. So yeah, have a great Monday. Thank you for tuning in, and I'm excited to talk a little bit more in depth with you about sound tomorrow when we talk about rhyme.